Riley's voice cracked through the air like thunder across a summer sky, raw and sudden, forcing the cafe into a stunned silence. Utensils clinked to a halt, conversations choked mid-sentence, and all eyes turned. The camera, a shaky handheld, zoomed in just enough to catch the fury etched across Riley's face. Jackson stood frozen in place, a tray teetering in his trembling grip, the wet ring of coffee now soaking into his sleeve like shame. In that charged moment, words weren't needed. His silence shouted everything. Someone in the crowd whispered, half shocked, half curious, "Is he crying?" Above them, a title overlay danced in digital irony. Employee yells at undercover boss in a cafe. What happens next is shocking. But before the world caught fire, before the video fed the endless scroll of judgment and viral outrage, there was quiet. A breath, a beginning. A voice, low, composed, recalled the origin. That morning began like every other. I wasn't supposed to be the story. 24 hours earlier, no trending tags, no public shame, just Jackson Reed, a name cloaked behind cotton blend and caffeine stains. He stood in the back room of a downtown coffee shop, fumbling with an apron string that refused to tie evenly. The uniform scratched at his neck, an awkward reminder he didn't belong here. Not really. He was a stranger in familiar clothes. "First time in 2 decades I've touched a coffee machine," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone listening. His fingers gripped the edge of the stainless steel counter, tacky from leftover syrup. Anxiety buzzed beneath his skin, sharper than any espresso shot. The soundscape around him was a relentless drumbeat. Orders shouted in clipped code, steam hissing like punctuation. A young barista with a ponytail and practiced indifference raised an eyebrow. "Name tag?" she asked, holding out a sticker like a rite of passage. He handed her one that read, simply, Jack. No last name, no hint of the corner office, just another face in the morning rush. His phone was buried deep in his pocket, silenced and forgotten. It held 100 unread emails and his real identity, neither of which belonged in this world of spilled milk and chipped tiles. Nobody here knew the truth, that the man they called Jack was the one who approved the budget, reviewed the quarterly losses, signed every paycheck. Katie, her name tag worn down to the ghost of letters, appeared beside him, pressing a small stack of drink labels into his palm. "Just stick with me and don't look like you're drowning," she said, her voice kind but brisk. Then, leaning closer, she added, "One thing, don't get in Riley's way." He blinked. "Riley?" She didn't answer, not with words. She handed him a rag, then pointed to the smeared counter. "You'll know when you see them." That name clung to the air. Riley. It wasn't just a warning. It was a presence, a gravitational pull. Katie's expression softened, briefly before she turned to greet a regular customer, but something in her jaw had tightened. Jackson tucked the name away in his mind, placing it next to the creeping sense that this was going to be harder than any boardroom. A cup slammed onto the counter. Sharp, deliberate. Not shattered, but close. "That's not how you steam almond milk," said a voice flat as slate. Jackson turned, and there, as if conjured by tension itself, stood Riley. Tall, angular, eyes like steel that never blinked. A dark apron tied with soldier's precision. 3 silver piercings in one ear. No frills on the name tag. Just Riley. Jackson tried to stay focused, wiping the counter with practiced clumsiness, but his hand grazed a spoon, which knocked a cup, which tilted enough to spill. Riley's voice never rose. "Don't spill again." Jackson mumbled an apology, heart thudding. He reached for a towel. Riley didn't move. Their eyes narrowed. "Next time," they said, "just quit before you embarrass both of us." Then they turned and walked away, their silence heavier than the noise of the entire cafe. He stood there, breathing shallow, heat rising up his neck. The machines hissed behind him, indifferent to the storm in his chest. The crash came next. A cup slipped from a hand that wasn't steady enough. White porcelain hit tile and exploded like glass thunder. Coffee splattered across his shoes. A collective gasp rose from the cafe as the moment froze in fractured disbelief. Phones snapped upward. Someone inhaled too sharply. Riley arrived like a blade. No panic, no explosion. Just a single breath, drawn in with control. "I'll handle it," they said, sweeping up the shards with mechanical calm. Without even looking back, "You wipe tables. Less chance of disaster." Jackson bent to help. Riley's glance stopped him cold. "Don't! You'll cut yourself." He stood, hands limp, cheeks flushed. As he walked away, eyes followed him, some curious, some judgmental. It wasn't just a shattered cup. It was something deeper, exposure, a public stumble, and he'd handed the world front-row seats to his humiliation. He wiped tables methodically, circular motions that meant nothing. He wasn't cleaning. He was observing. Riley was motion incarnate. No wasted breath, no flourish. Orders called, temperatures checked, movements corrected. When a barista faltered mid-pour, Riley slid in, adjusted the wrist, moved on. No thanks given. None needed. They weren't warm, but they were just. The cafe pulsed around them, synchronized to their silent metronome. Jackson had seen Ivy League graduates collapse under less stress. But here, in the hum of caffeine and chaos, one person held it all together with barely a twitch. He should have felt defeated. But instead, something shifted. Curiosity. For the first time since stepping into this world, Jackson Reed wasn't thinking about spreadsheets or profit margins. He was watching Riley, and beneath the sting of embarrassment, something unexpected stirred. Respect. The man at the register looked like he had stepped out of a different world. Tailored suit, polished shoes, phone pressed to his ear, not once acknowledging the space he occupied. "Triple shot Americano. Extra hot, pump of vanilla, almond milk." He rattled off, more demand than order. Jackson nodded, trying to navigate the touchscreen, but his fingers stumbled. He tapped the wrong icon, corrected it, then hesitated. The screen blurred under pressure. And then, 675? It was 550 last week. The man's voice cut through the hum like a blade. Jackson opened his mouth, unsure, but Riley was already there. Calm, composed, razor-edged. Prices went up, corporate decision, not his call. The man finally looked up, scowl hardening. "Then give me corporate's number. This is robbery." Riley didn't flinch. "You want to yell at someone? Start higher up the chain. He's just doing the math." The customer scoffed. "Unbelievable. The service here is underpaid, overworked, and not responsible for your entitlement." Riley's reply came like a slap in slow motion. "Grateful? You want us to be grateful?" The cafe went quiet, the way nature does before a storm. Their voice sharpened, truth stripped of diplomacy. "Grateful for customers who don't lift their eyes from their phones. Grateful for prices that rise while our hours are slashed. Grateful for corporate policies that drop new hires in the deep end without a life vest." The words landed heavy. No one moved. Not even the espresso machine dared hiss. Jackson stood still, part of the tension, not immune. "We bleed to make this place work, and you want gratitude because you can afford a cup of foam and caffeine?" The man blinked, flush rising. "I've never been spoken to like this in my life." Riley's voice was even. "Then you've only been surrounded by people paid to stay quiet." The man grabbed his drink and stormed out, door slamming in his wake. Riley didn't budge, didn't offer apology. They had simply drawn a boundary, one that had needed drawing long before today. Jackson exhaled slowly. It hadn't been an outburst. It was something deeper, a fracture finally spoken aloud. Riley hadn't just defended a teammate. They'd exposed the rot, called out the quiet cruelty that passed as normal. His hands were still damp from wiping tables, but now they trembled for reasons that had nothing to do with broken cups. He'd sat in meetings about worker satisfaction. He'd read summaries about on-ground sentiment, but nothing had prepared him for the weight of actually living it, even briefly. Katie, at the fridge, was organizing oat milk she didn't need to. A nervous reflex. Riley approached, slipping a folded bill into her apron pocket. No grand gesture, just quiet rebellion. "Riley, I told you I don't need—" "It's not charity," they cut in, firm but kind. "They cut your hours. I'm just putting back what was taken." Katie's throat tightened. "You can't keep doing this." "I can. I did." She didn't argue. Riley turned to go, but paused. "Don't forget to eat. You've been on since 6. Jackson bent to clean a nearby table, pretending not to hear. But the moment lodged itself inside him. This wasn't defiance. It wasn't drama. It was survival. Silent, unseen, and deeply unjust. Then Bradley's voice, sharp and brittle, cracked across the floor. "Katie, that latte took 42 seconds. Target's 35. You're slipping." Katie didn't look up, but her hands trembled. Riley didn't wait. "Back off." Bradley raised a brow. "Excuse me?" "She's running 2 stations. You slash the schedule. Maybe thank her instead of timing her with a stopwatch." Jackson felt the air charge between them. Bradley stepped closer, eyes cold. "You want to speak for her? Fine. I'll review your numbers too." Riley's jaw tightened. "Please do. And make sure to include the unpaid overtime, the shifts she covered when Liam was out sick." Katie whispered, "Riley, don't." But it was too late. A line had been drawn in concrete. Jackson watched the dynamic shift. How quickly supervision became suppression. How control dressed itself as accountability. And how Riley stood their ground. At the register, Liam fumbled again, 3rd time in 20 minutes. Lids slipped from his fingers. Bradley appeared, tablet ready. "You're 7 seconds over average. That's 3 violations." Liam's voice cracked. "I'm trying. It's the mobile. No excuses," Bradley snapped. Riley arrived, heat simmering. "He's 5 seconds over. 5. Bradley didn't look. "It adds up." "So does burnout," Riley shot back. "So does humiliation. So does treating a kid with 2 jobs like a machine." Silence returned. Liam stared at the floor. Jackson stood frozen, heart steady, thoughts racing. He saw it now, how performance metrics became weapons, how one moment of pressure could tip someone over the edge. Riley stood firm. "If your app runs this place better than we do, maybe let it take our shifts too." Later, Jackson sat alone in a corner, wiping down a chair that didn't need it. Beneath the cloth, his notebook lay open. A grid had formed. Names, notes, timestamps, a story in red ink. Katie, cut hours, still pulling doubles. Liam, flagged for seconds, no help. Riley, confronts every time, no retaliation, yet. In the corner, he scribbled, "How much is intentional? Who's protecting who? Who's watching?" Riley passed by, delivering a drink. No eye contact, no smile. The cafe moved around them, business as usual. But Jackson saw the patterns now, systems within systems, ones no performance report had ever captured. He restocked napkins beside Margaret at the dish sink. She rubbed her wrist slowly with a towel. The rush was over, but the ache lingered. "You know," she said gently, "this place used to feel like family." Jackson looked at her. What changed? Her smile was worn but honest. "The name on the paychecks." She wasn't bitter, just truthful. "Mr. Patel ran this place 20 years, remembered birthdays, paid for my nursing classes even though he knew I'd stay." She glanced around. "Now it's apps, targets, schedules that change overnight. No one talks, no one laughs." Jackson said nothing. Her words cut deeper than reprimands ever could. "It's still the same walls," she said. "But the soul? That's gone missing." And for the first time, Jackson Reed wondered if the soul had gone missing because of him. Katie leaned against the supply closet, phone clutched to her ear like a lifeline. Her voice was low, strained. "I know it's last minute, but can you watch her? Just for a few hours, please. I don't have anyone else." Jackson stood nearby, pretending to clean the same shelf for the 3rd time. A long pause hung in the air. Then Katie's voice dropped further, barely above a whisper. "Yes, I'll pay you. Whatever you need." She ended the call and closed her eyes. That morning, Bradley had posted a new schedule, gutting hours across the board. No warnings, no explanations, just numbers slashed with the cold efficiency of a spreadsheet. Katie's shifts had been gutted too. "Childcare doesn't adjust," she had muttered earlier, speaking to no one in particular. "But my paycheck does." Riley had argued again, fought against it with all the fire they had left. But the decision stood. "Cost optimization," Bradley had said. Jackson wrote the phrase in his notebook and underlined it twice. Katie passed him, eyes dry but hollow, like something inside her had cracked and been carefully taped back together. She wasn't just tired. She was cornered. And suddenly Jackson saw it. These weren't just scheduling decisions. They were structural fractures, invisible choices that reshaped entire lives without warning. Choices made by people like him. Out behind the cafe, near the dumpsters and the always rattling AC unit, the air snapped with tension. "You can't just cut shifts after the schedule's posted," Riley said, voice sharp. Bradley leaned against the wall, smug. "We're adjusting labor to match traffic. It's basic business." "No," Riley snapped. "It's exploitation. People build their weeks around those hours. Rent, childcare, meds. This isn't chess, it's survival." Bradley sneered. "You're acting like this is charity. I'm acting like it's not a game." From inside the storage door, Jackson listened, phone in apron pocket, voice recorder running. He hadn't planned to record. But truth demands witnesses. Riley stepped forward, fire barely contained. "You think these numbers are abstract? Every minute you cut is food off someone's plate. You don't trim labor, you cut people." Bradley's voice darkened. "Keep pushing, and I'll cut you too." Jackson's grip on the shelf tightened. That wasn't mismanagement anymore, that was threat, intimidation. And Riley, once more, didn't flinch. They reached into their backpack and pulled out a battered spiral notebook. Corners worn, pages thick with ink and time. Bradley frowned. "What's that?" "3 years of violations," Riley said, voice cool and lethal. "Wage theft, safety hazards, schedule tampering. I've documented everything." "You're bluffing." Riley turned to a page, held it up. "August 12th, Diane worked a double, clocked out at 6:05. You logged her at 5:30. Another page. "October 3rd, 2 new hires fired before training finished. No final paychecks issued." A third. "February. Katie's hours dropped below the health insurance threshold, right after she submitted a doctor's note." Bradley's face went pale. "I haven't sent it in," Riley said. "Yet." Behind the door, Jackson felt every word carve itself deeper into him. Riley wasn't posturing. They were prepared. And suddenly, Bradley looked less like management and more like a man out of moves. Later, Jackson sat in a hotel room lit only by his laptop screen. He hit play. Blurry phone footage filled the screen. Riley at the counter, voice sharp, eyes unwavering. "You want us to be grateful. We bleed to make this place work. You can afford foam. We can't afford rent." The video had exploded. Over 2 million views and climbing. Comments divided like tectonic plates. "Unprofessional. Fire them." Finally, someone said it. Late-stage capitalism in one clip. His phone buzzed. 5 messages from his assistant. Legal wanted options. PR flagged keywords. The board demanded statements. They called it a crisis. Jackson called it a mirror. He wasn't thinking about optics. He was thinking about truth, about what that video showed and what it didn't. Riley hadn't gone viral. They'd just been heard, finally. Notebook open, Jackson sat on the bed, red pen in hand. He scanned the list. Every timestamp, every name, every failure. He could shut it down, lawyer up, control the narrative. But then he remembered Katie's voice, Liam's panic, Margaret's tired honesty, Riley's unwavering defiance. He wrote one sentence at the bottom of the page. "We fix this at the root." He shut the notebook. The board would panic. The headlines would spin. But none of that mattered now. This wasn't a story to bury. It was one to finish. He wasn't going back to corporate. He was going deeper. The next morning, Riley was already behind the bar. Sleeves rolled, focus locked. No mention of the video. No ego. Just work. They calibrated the machines, cleaned the grinders, corrected an order with precision. Jackson waited for some shift, some fallout. It never came. "Take register today," Riley told Katie, passing her a rag. "Less stress on your ankle." "Thanks," she murmured, startled. Jackson watched. Riley didn't bask. They didn't gloat. They simply moved like still water, steady, unbothered. That struck deeper. Then, the video. Anyone could erupt. But showing up after, still working, still trying, that took something more than rage. It took belief. And suddenly, Jackson understood. Riley never meant to go viral. They just wanted to stay human in a system designed to grind people down. Liam fumbled the portafilter again. Grounds spilled. Riley stepped in, didn't scold, didn't sigh, just adjusted his grip. "Count to 4, not 3, they said. "You're rushing without realizing." The next pull was cleaner. "Now tamp like you mean it," Riley added. "Flat pressure, let the shot speak." Jackson lingered, pretending to organize cups, but he watched, every second etching itself into his thoughts. No fanfare, no lecture, just repetition until it stuck. Liam glanced up. "Why are you helping me?" Riley shrugged. "Because no one helped me." Liam nodded, steadier. Jackson didn't write anything this time. He just watched. The patience beneath the edge. The integrity that didn't need a spotlight. Leadership without a title. It wasn't about kindness. It was survival made generous. And it was working. Bradley cornered Jackson near the stockroom, clipboard in hand like a gavel. "Keep an eye on Riley. They've been clocking out early. Time theft." Jackson raised a brow. "You're sure?" "Reports don't lie." But Jackson had been watching. Riley, sleeves rolled, locking up the cafe long after close, still wiping counters, logging fridge temps. 2 hours past the system clock out. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Because now he knew, not all theft showed up in reports. But all truth, eventually, did. No overtime, no applause, no audience. Just quiet, unpaid work. That night, Jackson sat alone, bathed in the glow of his laptop screen. He pulled up the timestamp sheet, the one Bradley insisted proved misconduct. Bradley was right about one thing. The system didn't lie. It just didn't tell the whole story. Jackson circled the gaps in the logs. Gaps where Riley's work continued long after the clock claimed they'd gone home. In the margins, he wrote, "Reality reports." The data might accuse Riley of time theft, but Jackson had seen the truth with his own eyes. Riley was giving more than anyone. And the system, it punished them for it. It wasn't just flawed policy anymore. It was something engineered to erase effort, to dismiss commitment, to reward silence and penalize those who stayed late without asking. Down a narrow hallway outside the break room, voices clashed. "You're editing the schedule after people sign it," Riley said, their tone sharpened by exhaustion. Bradley crossed his arms, deflecting. "That's a serious accusation." Riley pulled a folded paper from their apron, creased, time-stamped, marked in pen. "This is what I signed. Tuesday, 7 hours. Payroll says 5. Katie lost her benefits because of 2 shifts she never even missed." Bradley shrugged. "Must have been a system error." Riley's eyes locked on his. "Funny how the system always errors in your favor." The hallway hushed. Margaret paused in the doorway. Liam stirred sugar without looking up. Jackson watched from the shadows, his breath held. Riley stepped forward. "This isn't sloppy. It's strategic. People don't fight what they don't know is missing." Bradley laughed weakly. "You think this is going to corporate?" "I think corporate's already watching," Riley replied, steady. And they weren't wrong, because Jackson was there, watching everything. Hours later, Bradley stood by the staff board, arms folded like a wall. "Effective immediately," he said loud enough for the whole cafe to hear. "Riley is no longer employed at this location. No warning, no hearing, just a verdict." The room froze. Katie dropped a spoon. Margaret opened her mouth, then closed it. Liam went still, like someone had hit pause on his breath. All eyes turned to Riley. They didn't protest, didn't yell, didn't flinch. Just nodded once, removed their apron, folded it with care, and placed it gently on the counter. They walked out in silence, past the espresso machine, past the register, past the broken clock. Not a single word, and Jackson felt it, like a thunderclap in reverse. The absence was louder than rage. This wasn't surrender. It was something colder, sharper, like the calm before a storm you know is coming. The door had barely clicked shut when Katie found her voice. "If they go," she said, loud and clear, "I go." Liam looked up. "Same." Margaret wiped her hands slowly. "I've been here 15 years, never said a word, but I won't stay quiet for this." One by one, the team stepped forward. Runners, baristas, even the dishwasher stopped mid-cycle. Bradley scoffed. "This is emotional. You'll calm down." "No," Katie replied. "We're just finally saying it out loud." Jackson stood on the edge of it all, breath locked. Not from shock, but from recognition. This wasn't performance. This was pain turned into purpose. Riley hadn't led with charm. They'd led with truth. And now, stripped of uniform, of position, they had something far more dangerous: loyalty. The room pulsed. Bradley tried to retake control. Riley was gone. Order would return. He believed it. But Jackson stepped forward, quietly, deliberately. He reached for his glasses, removed them. Then slowly, he peeled away the wig. No more apron, no disguise, just the truth. "My name is Jackson Reed," he said. "I'm the CEO of Sunrise Enterprises." The room went still. Katie gasped. Margaret covered her mouth. Liam took a step back. Even Bradley froze. Jackson looked across the room at the people he'd worked beside, been scolded with, ignored among. "I've been here undercover, watching, listening, trying to understand what this place has become." He let the silence hold. "And what I've seen," he added, voice low, "isn't just mismanagement. It's failure. And it's mine." He let the truth land heavy. "Let's fix it." With those 3 words, the room shifted. The storm changed direction. Bradley's color drained. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. This isn't real," he stammered. "I am real," Jackson said evenly. "And I've watched you lie, threaten, and manipulate the people who keep this place alive." Bradley tried to recover. "If I had known—" "That's the point," Jackson cut in. "You didn't. You only act decent when someone important's watching." The staff didn't move, didn't speak. They didn't need to. Power had shifted, and the man who had clung to it didn't know how to breathe without it. Jackson didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Do you remember Tina Alvarez?" he asked. The air dropped. Katie's eyes brimmed. Margaret turned away. Bradley stilled. "She worked here. 15 months. Took double shifts. Took care of her siblings after their parents passed." He unfolded a document. Yellowed edges. Smudged ink. "She logged 60-hour weeks. Got paid for 40. When she spoke up, her hours were cut. She took another job to cover rent." He paused. "She fell asleep driving home. Never made it." No one dared speak. "We sent flowers," Jackson said quietly. "That same week, we installed a $4,000 espresso machine." He choked slightly. "We replaced her with equipment." Then he opened another notebook, smaller, thicker. Riley's, names, dates, violations. He didn't summarize. He read. 67 labor violations, 22 instances of retaliatory scheduling, 35 wage discrepancies, 9 employees pushed below healthcare eligibility, all cross-referenced, all witnessed. Katie swallowed hard. Liam looked away. Bradley didn't move. You thought no one noticed, that no one cared. Jackson held up the book. Someone did. He looked directly at them. And now that it's in my hands, it's my responsibility. Silence. Jackson turned to Bradley. Calm, controlled. You're done here. Bradley blinked. Excuse me? You're terminated, effective immediately. The room froze again. I've managed this store for 6 years. And you violated every principle we claim to stand for, Jackson replied. Pack your things. HR will be in touch. Bradley looked around, searching for a lifeline. There wasn't one. Even the part-timer leaned in, nodding slightly. You can't, he started. But he didn't finish. Because for the first time, someone who never listened was finally being told to leave. He grabbed his clipboard, jaw tight, and stormed toward the back. No one followed. No applause followed him out. Just a silence that felt like release. Katie let out a breath that sounded like it had been stuck in her lungs for weeks. Margaret finally sank into a chair. Liam smiled. Not big, but real. Jackson turned to the team. No speech, no drama. Just a single line. That's the last person who gets to treat you like numbers. And somehow, that was enough. Then Riley stepped back into the room. No apron, no name tag, just presence and fire. They looked Jackson dead in the eye. You think this is justice? Jackson met their stare, silent. You played dress up, Riley said, voice sharp. You watched us break, took notes while we bled. You knew, and instead of stopping it, you hid behind an alias and watched us like we were a case study. Jackson opened his mouth, but Riley didn't let him speak. Who the hell are you to supervise our pain like it's a research paper? Their voice cracked, not from weakness, but from layered betrayal. We're not lessons, we're people. The room stilled, not because Riley was wrong, but because no one had ever said it, not to a CEO's face. And Jackson, powerful, respected, had no words. Not yet, because Riley wasn't asking for answers. They were demanding something deeper, accountability. Jackson didn't defend himself, didn't retreat. He lowered his gaze, voice rough. I built this company, brick by brick, store by store, and I told myself we were different. He looked down at the floor as if truth might live there. And somewhere along the way, I stopped looking. I trusted reports instead of people, delegated values to spreadsheets. The team stood still. No one moved. He continued, voice frayed. I built a system that was supposed to protect you, and it crushed you instead. He looked up, not with authority, but sorrow. I thought I was doing good, until I stepped into this cafe and saw what I'd actually built. Riley said nothing. Katie blinked away tears. Margaret clutched the chain around her neck. Jackson took a breath. I failed you. He stepped closer, slow and unsure. I want to fix the damage, not just the numbers, and I want to offer you something. He looked at Riley. A position, Director of Reform. You'd report directly to me. Gasps rippled. Katie's brows shot up. Even Liam froze. Riley's expression didn't change. No. Jackson blinked. You didn't even. I'm not interested in becoming another suit who forgets where they came from, Riley snapped. It's not about a title, Jackson said. It's about power. You've already earned it. This just gives it structure. Riley didn't soften. You want me to fix what you built? From inside the same system that broke us? I want you to help tear it down, Jackson said, and build something better. A pause. Riley's arms crossed. Their heart raced. This wasn't flattery. It was a challenge, and those were harder to ignore. Riley exhaled, slow and heavy, then reached into their bag and pulled out a weathered envelope. There's something you should know first. Jackson nodded. I skimmed from the register. Over 2 years, $4,327, gasps hit like static. Katie's lips parted. Margaret's hands stilled. Liam looked stunned. I timed it with the camera glitches, Riley said. Only on days I knew surveillance was down. Jackson waited. I didn't take it for me, Riley added. Every cent went to someone shorted by payroll, someone who missed rent because of a system error, someone this place almost broke. No one spoke. I broke the rules because sometimes that's the only way to keep people standing. They placed the envelope on the counter. No apology, just truth. Jackson looked at it. He didn't reach for it. Instead, he stepped forward. I don't need someone perfect. Riley looked at him, guarded. I need someone who knows what it costs to survive in here. Someone who got pushed to the edge and still pulled others back. He lowered his voice. I don't hire saints. I hire the ones who flip the damn table and then stay to rebuild it. The room held still. That sentence didn't sound like PR. It sounded like years, like scars turned to steel. Riley didn't smile, but something shifted in their eyes. Because for the first time, someone hadn't just tolerated their fire. He asked for it, not to destroy, but to light the way. Riley spoke, calm but razor sharp. I'll take the job, but not without conditions. Jackson nodded. First, restitution for Tina's family, full back pay, benefits, a public statement that she was failed. Jackson's jaw tightened. Done. Second, a legally binding contract, reforms protected from being rolled back the moment the headlines fade. No PR tricks. Jackson nodded again. You'll have it, in writing, with teeth. Riley exhaled. Not relief, not trust, just release. I've seen too many promises rot. I'm not here for slogans. I'm here for change, with locks on the door. Jackson held out a hand. Then let's write the damn blueprint. Riley stared, then finally shook it. Not as an employee, not even as a partner, but as someone who refused to be erased. 3 months later, the cafe still looked the same walls, same espresso scent. But the people, they were changed. Liam trained a new hire with easy calm. Katie laughed from the back office, holding her first ever profit-sharing check. The break room fridge? Fully stocked. Nothing labeled, nothing hoarded. Margaret stood behind the counter with a clipboard. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. I just got my first bonus in 15 years, she said. Her voice light, her eyes bright. Didn't even know they still made those. Jackson sat nearby. No uniform, no distance, just presence. And Riley? They stood near the register, arms crossed, watching. No fanfare, no banners, just quiet, honest repair. And for the first time, the cafe didn't just function, it breathed. In a boardroom across town, cold and sharp with glass walls, a regional executive clicked to the next slide. Given Q2 projections, we propose rolling back overtime eligibility in low-volume stores. Nods followed. Then Riley spoke. No, the room fell silent. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't slam a table, just opened a folder. Reduced overtime means reduced hours. Reduced hours means lost coverage. That means burnout. That means turnover. An executive cleared their throat. It's not personal. That's the problem, Riley replied. They flipped to another page. Retention data. From every reformed cafe. You asked me to lead. This is what leadership looks like. It's not loud, it's exact. Jackson sat at the far end, arms folded, smiling quietly. Riley didn't need fire now. They had data, precision, and a chair at the table they once fought to dismantle. The rebel had become the reformer, and the room was finally listening. 1 year later, the cafe glowed with warmth. Margaret lit a small candle by the counter. Beside it stood a plaque, the Tina Alvarez Foundation. For the workers who hold us up. Katie spoke first. She paid for my bus ride once, didn't even ask. Liam nodded. Covered my shift before her accident so I could study. No speeches, No stage, just a table with envelopes, grants, relief funds, child care stipends, support, real support. Jackson stood nearby, quiet, present. Riley stepped forward. "This isn't a tribute," they said. "It's a promise that no one's name disappears again." The candle flickered, and for a moment it felt like Tina was there, smiling, tired, kind. No applause, just the breath of something finally made right. And Riley, voice low, steady, finished it all. "You think corporations can't change?" A beat. They can, but only when the right people force them to. No fireworks, just conviction. And change. They glanced around the cafe, Katie holding her daughter, Liam pouring perfect foam, Margaret hugging a new hire, Jackson beside them, quiet, watching, understanding. Riley added, "If you've ever worked a job where no one saw your worth, you're not alone." A final pause. Say it out loud. "Because this fight isn't over." And in that pause before the day moved on, something stayed behind. Not a speech, a promise, and a reason to keep listening.